Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Destination Truth. I'm your host Tyler, and today I have a very exciting episode with Jeff Berwick. Now I did this at the Freedom Fest, which I just got back from. Check out my last video if you want to get some other takeaways from the conference. But this interview is really interesting because basically we just dive right into it. We just talk about, okay, the dollar, it cannot sustain itself any longer, guys. The grand illusion that the globalists have been carrying on for a long time is about to come to a close. Inevitably, it cannot be avoided. 2007 and 8 was a little speed bump into a giant wall that we are about to crash into. How long it's going to take us to actually basically run into that wall is debatable. That's what this interview is all about. I asked him a little bit about that and how to prepare for people like us, millennials, who don't have a lot of wealth and want to be prepared for this collapse. So enjoy the video, and if you like it, please give me a like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Hi everyone, I'm here with Jeff Berwick at Freedom Fest in Las Vegas. I'm really excited to just run into you, coincidentally. So to help some of my viewers, I've been looking at ways to try to find experts that would know ways to kind of maybe foresee the eventual collapse of the dollar. Maybe there might be some indicators out there that might help people realize when to get out, maybe out of the country, maybe to get out of either stocks or cryptocurrencies. What kind of signs might you think might arise?
Well, we've been having the signs for decades since they took the dollar off the gold in August 15th, 1971 with Richard "I'm not a criminal" Nixon. The biggest thing to people out there who might not understand the big picture is just look at the U.S. government debt. 10 years ago it was around $8 trillion. It's currently, I have to almost look it up daily because it's going up so fast. It's over $21 trillion right now. If you just do the math, if interest rates were 5%, let's make it 10% to make it easy. I went to government indoctrination camp, so I'm not very good at the math. But let's say it's 10%. So $21 trillion, that'd be $2.1 trillion per year in interest payments alone. 10% isn't an out-of-the-world sort of a number when it comes to interest rates. So the actual historical average for government interest rates is around 5 to 7%. So if you just took that 10% to make it easy, that'd be almost the entire budget of the U.S. government from all the extortion, from everyone they extort. It's just a massive amount. It's the biggest extortion racket in the world, just to go to pay interest on the debt. So they've known this since 2008. We came very close to the ultimate collapse in 2008, and what they decided at that point is, let's manipulate interest rates down to about 0%, which we still are generally at 0%, even negative interest rates, which is bizarre. I can't believe that it's even real. And they just print money now until the entire system collapses, and we're getting very close to it. You were mentioning before we talked, you're thinking maybe 10 or 20 years. I'm thinking 1 or 2 years. It's a lot closer than most people think.
2025 seems like the number.
It could be tomorrow. It really could. We're very close. So if you're sitting there and you've got some of your assets in mutual funds or pension funds or in an IRA and things like that in the stock market, it's always better to be a year too early than a day too late, because once this thing comes crumbling down, and it will, it's mathematically has to, it'll be too late. It's really interesting to me to see in Greece, they closed all the banks a couple of years ago because of what the problems there, and actually what happened in Greece will happen in the US, it's just a matter of time. But it was so interesting because I was talking to people in Greece, and I wrote a lot, and I said, hey, this is going to happen very soon. Not a lot of people listened to me, and then as soon as they closed all the banks and everything shut down, everyone started lining up outside the bank to get their money out. It's like, you're doing it wrong. Do it before.
The bank run beforehand, guys. You got to get your money out.
Exactly.
Right. So what are some ways that you would recommend for preparing? I know you like gold and cryptocurrencies. Can you elaborate on that and anything else that you might recommend?
Really, just whatever has worked for the last 50 years isn't going to work that much anymore. So definitely not bonds. It's the biggest bubble in human history is the bond bubble. Stock market is massively overinflated due to the inflation of the money supply. So a lot of the things that a lot of people used to do, which would be invest in some mutual funds, which would invest in stocks and bonds, that's the exact opposite of what you should be doing at this moment in time. And really what I say is, if you have assets, just put them into things that the Federal Reserve can't inflate and that the U.S. government can't steal. So that would be things like gold and silver in your own possession, cryptocurrencies, absolutely. Even foreign real estate. I live in Mexico. There's tremendous opportunities. I live in Acapulco, Mexico, which they really denigrate and try to make it look like it's the most dangerous place in the world. It really isn't at all. It's almost like the safest place in the world to me personally. Foreigners are like have no problems there whatsoever. But because of all this propaganda, the real estate prices are really low. And it's the same in so many countries. I'm actually looking in Brazil right now, near Fortaleza. You can get a 2-bedroom new house built on the beach, and you own the property on the beach, about half an acre, for about $150,000. And they actually do financing in cryptocurrency. I don't remember the name of the thing offhand, but if you subscribe to the Dollar Vigilante newsletter, we just wrote about it in our last newsletter. You can go to dollarvigilante.com/subscribe. But opportunities like that, they're all out there. But basically just getting outside of the system in general. When these things collapse, and they always collapse, this is nothing unheard of. Zimbabwe collapsed 10 years ago, Venezuela's in collapse right now. We're going to see them all collapse over time. Is just get outside of those systems and invest in things, as I mentioned, that they can't inflate and they can't steal. And then you'll be much better off.
Wow.
And it's actually worked out. We've been writing since 2010, so a lot of people say, well, you've been talking about the collapse for a while. I actually started in 2010 with the Dollar Vigilante, and I said, by the end of this decade, so by 2020, I expect fiat currencies to all collapse. I think we're still on track for that. But the interesting thing is, we've said to invest in gold. I forget what gold was at around 2010, but I think it was lower than what it is now. I think it was 600.
11. Oh, is that low?
I could be wrong, but we actually, my partner Ed Bugos was recommended to buy gold since 2000, so when it was around 200. So done quite well there. Also in the cryptos, of course, we recommended Bitcoin at $3, Ethereum at $2.
I missed that. I didn't know about Jeff yet.
Well, I gotta say, there's another opportunity here now with this. The Bitcoin down from 20,000 to around 6,000 right now. A lot of the others, Dash it was around $1,600. It's now $200. I'm not saying this is the absolute bottom yet. I think we could still go a bit lower. But if you missed the first wave, there's another wave coming. But it might be. Right now, it could be in 3 months, it could be whatever, but it's quite soon. We're very close to the bottom. So for people out there, if you haven't gotten into cryptos at all yet, now is a really good time to start looking.
Interesting. So maybe moving out of the country is a good option. If you want, let's just pretend you really want to stay in the country. Is there anything you can recommend there? Because personally, I've been looking at moving to like state line Tahoe. Basically, it's like Lake Tahoe area. If you've ever been, it's really nice. In Nevada, there's no sales tax, but you're still stuck in the United States. If you want to stay in the States, is there any recommendation you can think of there?
I really recommend just to get out if you can. The rest of the world is so much freer. I can't believe how unfree the U.S. is now. You can't do anything here anymore. And, it's just going to get worse and worse because the government's bankrupt. So I recommend just getting out. And what they tell you on the news, the mainstream media...
Every other country is too dangerous. You will die.
They do that on purpose. They want to keep everyone here. And actually, they're trying to get them to build a wall on the Mexico border, which they don't realize will be eventually to keep people in at some point. So I'm not trying to be like I'm not trying to scare people. In fact, nothing is really that scary. There's actually nothing to fear. However, there's going to be some major changes in the next few years, and I would get out of major cities in the U.S. I wouldn't be living in Los Angeles or New York personally.
Or San Francisco, which I'm stuck in right now. Any metropolitan area, really.
Yeah, and as things collapse, it's just these things can happen very quickly. For example, in 2008, we came very close to the ultimate collapse in 2008. Because all the banks, no one knew which banks were solvent. Most of the shipping in the world, the overseas tankers and stuff who ship a lot of food and stuff from all across the world, they all run on bank credit. So for a few days, no one knew if they were going to get paid when the ship got there. And they actually stopped shipping for a couple days. With the way that the grocery stores and things like that are today, they only have about 3, 4, 5 days of inventory. After that, it's gone. And these things can happen very quickly. Again, I'm not trying to scare people. In fact, you should just be growing a garden in your house. Everyone's got a lawn that they mow every week. That should be a huge garden growing really nice organic vegetables. Tastes so good. The enzymes are all fresh. Just little things like that. It's just a little shift. Get out of mutual funds, stocks and bonds, invest in precious metals, cryptocurrency, and foreign real estate, grow a garden, just start to get ready for what's going to happen. Again, I don't want to put anyone in any sort of fear. Fear is actually the worst thing possible, and that's actually what the government always does. But, just preparing for what's going to happen. It's just common sense if you're aware of what's going on. The problem is most people just don't have the time to really look into these things. They're working two jobs just to pay all their taxes.
Working too hard.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's on purpose.
Yeah, and the mainstream media wants you to be constantly panicked about just danger in general. Don't leave the country, you're gonna die. Okay, let's skip on to something. Yeah, I have kind of a theory that basically, Donald Trump won. In my opinion, he's definitely a populist, and he does quite well, and he's doing quite well. His track record is right now great, so I think he actually might get reelected, but I have a scary opinion that the collapse is going to happen on his watch, and the left is obviously going to blame him and anyone that supports him, and it's going to justify bringing on potentially a full-blown dictator, like a Stalin, that could bring us into maybe full-blown communism. Who knows? There's definitely a big communist movement in America right now. That's why I'm here. But yeah, what do you think about that?
Yeah, that definitely is possible. We're going to see some sort of major collapse in the next couple of years, and it could again be next month. It could be that soon. And yes, they will probably try to blame it. I think they plan all these things ahead of time. I think Trump really is an insider. A lot
he
of
is to some extent. I think that's not even debatable.
He was trained as a Jesuit. His father was actually involved with the Bush family. They actually took out Nikola Tesla's technology decades ago. Wow. It was Trump and Bush, and then Trump has been best friends with the Clintons for decades.
Long time.
So this idea that he's some sort of outsider who's going to save everyone. Yeah. Government can't save anyone. We have to save ourselves. And this is what government always tries to do, is say, oh, if you just tick a box, this guy will save you. It's sort of the same sort of story with Jesus, not to get into a religious topic, but that's sort of the same thing. He's going to come back and save you. No, it's up to us to save ourselves. And that's what they want people to not know, is that we actually have the power to help ourselves and save ourselves, but they want us to keep believing that someone else is going to do it for us. So we'll see what happens. I think that's quite likely that they're going to have this collapse happen during his regime, the Trump regime, and they will probably blame it on capitalism, even though there's barely any capitalism at all in the U.S. anymore. It's basically corporatism, fascism.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's straight from Jeff Berwick. Thank you so much for your time. It's been excellent meeting you.
Pleasure.
And hope for the best, prepare for the worst, everyone.